So the company is 55 years old. Started back in '65 here in Halifax. That's why we called Halifax Fan. And we're a custom industrial fan manufacturer. So that means we sell fans just for industry. It's a fantastic product really to have, because virtually all industries need fans, whether that's in a boiler plant or a heating plant or a freezing plant or wherever. All industries have a requirement for fans. Our business was based principally here in Yorkshire. I think the most international we were was the occasional fan to Nottinghamshire or somewhere within the UK. We had probably 10% of our business going internationally outside the British shores, but we were a very local-based company. Back in 2005, 2006, nearly all of our customer base was within about 150-mile radius of where we are in Brighouse in Halifax. When we saw the market dying here in the UK, which was probably from 2000 up until 2004-05, and then we made the decision, our business was shrinking in terms of revenue and also in terms of profitability. We were sub £3 million and unprofitable and not sustainable. So China was really our first foray into setting up an international business. And we made that choice that it was China because we could see machine builders were in China. And we also recognized that there was an opportunity in China because there was a lack of Western fan manufacturers in China. And we knew that the perception of the market was that Chinese-made fans were poor quality. So us setting up a high-quality manufacturing enterprise there should give us a differentiator over the local fan manufacturers. And although that then took time to progress, that's what we built the success of our fan business in China on the back of. Some of the benefits that having the new China operation, it's not new now, 15 years, has brought to the UK business are, it's given us a base in China. So many of our customers in the UK or for the UK factory, our customers were sending machines out to Asia or China. So now we have a service and support organization in China. So that gives us credibility and we're much more likely to win the order here for our UK business because we can support it in China. Another thing that we've seen is in China, still some customers, particularly for very arduous fans, want the fan built outside of China. And we can offer that, but support it locally. So we will often build a fan here in the UK organization, send it over to China, and our China team will help service and support it. The difference in price, just for information really, between a UK fan and a China fan is about 30%. So it's a lot more that the China customer will pay for that, but they're happy to do that because they consider that the UK manufactured fan will be better in some way than the China fan. If we hadn't have set up in China back in 2006, 2005, when we made the decision, I don't believe our business would have grown considerably from what it was. And we would be ticking along at 2 or 3 million pounds turnover instead of a company which is now ticking over at about 40 million pounds turnover. So it's a sizable difference in terms of how the organisation would have looked. Today we have about 185, 190 employees, and that's growing all of the time, principally because of China. The countries where we're located and the sort of the placement geographically of our factories. In the UK, we're here in Halifax, Halifax Fan. In the USA, we've actually got 2 facilities, one in Akron, Ohio, and one in Syracuse in upstate New York. Over to China, we've got a manufacturing facility in Shenzhen. We've also got a manufacturing facility in Nantong. We've got another facility in Xi'an, which is our design, sales, service and support organization. And we have another remote sales service design facility in Shanghai. because principally that's where our customer base is. The market generally for fans, industrial fans, is split up with the US, Europe, China taking $1 billion each. The other portions of the world are substantially less. And the machine builders of the world are generally placed in US, Europe, or China. So really, we wanted to be in one of those, or all of those 3 locations. So before we set up a new manufacturing area, or new manufacturing unit, what we really look at is to try and understand where our customers are. Fans are big, heavy, physically big units, and people don't want to ship them around because shipping's expensive, as well as duty is often expensive. So we're really looking for where our customers are based. Our customers, I think I mentioned earlier, are machine builders, people who are making ovens for the buns of McDonald's or KFC, people who are making power plants, big boilers. So we want to be where those manufacturers are. And generally those manufacturers are USA, Europe, or China. We do see some in India, and we are seeing a rise in that manufacturing base in Southeast Asia as well. So it's principally that which is driving our thinking of manufacturing base, but we also do think of service base. So we are setting up separate service companies in places like the Middle East, where there's a lot of our fans ending up through the machine builder in the petroleum industry, but we don't want to manufacture there because fans aren't brought there, they just need to be serviced there. We also need a supplier base. Supply is particularly important for us, and a high quality supply base, because we want to buy high quality equipment, because often it's specified by our customers that the equipment has to be of a certain grade, a certain quality. So we need that supplier base. We also need a wide range of different employee skills. For us in particular, we need good people on the shop floor who can fabricate and weld. And although this seems to many people like a simple job, it was one of the hardest challenges we had when we set up Shenzhen. Then we need to actually recruit designers, sales engineers, accountants, etc. So the next locations from China is really, we're looking to probably expand further into China. China still for us has a massive market potential for us that we can access and reach and develop. We have a good brand name now in China, and we can grow on where we already are. Having said that, we're also looking at Southeast Asia, in particular Thailand. Before the costs grew a lot in China, we had a good, profitable business in Southeast Asia. And that went as our costs came up in China. So we're looking now in Thailand. Thailand for us has a good supplier base, has good access to quality welders, fabricators, and a good supplier base. And we can be located near a big port like Lamshaban, which is an international port. And in particular, Thailand is useful because it's almost in the middle of the Southeast Asia. And then with the new free trade zone that's happening with Southeast Asia, we can import, export to anywhere there without any excess duty. I think our main advantage on the international marketplace is the fact that we are international and that we are a relatively small and flexible company still. So no matter where our company buys and wants the equipment serviced or support, we can be there and give them that good support. Coupled with that, I think it's our knowledge and experience. That's what sets one manufacturer aside from another in our industry. Many people can build fans, but it's having the knowledge of how to correctly apply the particular fan, the particular design of the fan to that market. That's probably the most key. The quality of a fan is also important. Fans are, and it can be, an extremely dangerous product. If they're not built properly, having half a ton or a ton of weight whizzing around at 3,000 RPM and not being held together properly can be a health and safety nightmare. So the fact that we have a high quality product, which we can manufacture in the 3 main areas of the world, Europe, USA, and China, is a great benefit for our customers. It's less that we export our fans to customers in different parts of the world now. Now we have our factories in the USA, China and Europe. We export a lot less our fans because invariably where our customers' machines are ending up is where our factories are based, or our factories can support it and maybe manufacture it in a better geographical location to reduce the cost of shipping or to reduce the cost of manufacturing. Many of our customers, for instance, are USA-based customers, but they have daughter companies in China or in Asia, for instance. So we may well take the opportunity and talk to the customer in the USA, but the actual product will be ordered and manufactured in China because that would be beneficial for the customer in terms of cost and in terms of delivery time. With regard to outsourcing or licensing the manufacturing of our product, I've been nervous of doing that, or we've been nervous of doing that, particularly in China, because it seemed to entail too much of our quality guys' resource to go out and support them, again, particularly in China. And that's one of the reasons why we set up Nantong last year, to really take back all of the work that we had been allowing subcontractors to do for us. Having said that, we're bringing out a new cloud tool later this year, which will allow companies that we've vetted and licensed across the world to manufacture under our design our sort of standard fan range. So nothing too fast, nothing too hot, but a range which we can feel comfortably that those approved manufacturers can actually build for us in those more remote locations where we're not at the moment. It was key, looking back, that we did set up our own factory, and it was a woofie, and we were in full control of the manufacturing and quality of our fan range in China, because the fan can be such a dangerous piece of equipment in an industrial location. And there's been such terrible accidents in China and elsewhere in the world with fans blowing apart, killing people, damaging equipment, and nasty accidents. So one of the reasons we've been successful in China is because we're credible and we can demonstrate our quality, we can demonstrate that we're in full control. If we'd have given that out to someone else in China, we would have struggled to gain that credibility, and we would not have had the success that we have had. Having said that, if we were in a different location, such as the USA, where the thinking about the manufacturers in the USA may be that they are of higher quality and higher expertise, we might have made a different decision. But I think for China, it was exactly the right decision to have our own woofie, our own business, to be credible as a supplier of a safe quality product. What's interesting, I think, is the dynamics between the UK factory and the China factory. The UK factory, although we've seen growth, it's much more in the scale of the growth we would expect within a UK industrial business. It's certainly less than 10% a year. In China, we've seen in excess of 35-40% a year. And China has quickly become the very big sister to the UK factory, and become much, much stronger in terms of its knowledge and its experience than I think even the UK has. The difference between our manufacturing facility and the quality of the product that we supply in China and many of our competitors in China, particularly the local competitors, is I believe that we have a much higher degree of quality control throughout the manufacturing process of the product. And that's all the way from selecting our supplier, through manufacturing, through training the people so they can do a job properly, and the service and support that we offer afterwards. It's all too easy, I think, to supply a product like a fan out and do it cheaply. And that's one thing we've always tried to avoid, to sell a fan at a particular price that the customer is demanding. There's a price we won't go below because it will impact the quality and the safety of our product. Well, when we first set up China 15, 16 years ago, we set it up for both internal and external markets. And initially, for the first 5, 7, 8 years, I should think about 40% of our business was being exported. But the profitability on jobs we exported started being eroded away as our costs in China were increasing. And duties and tariffs in other parts of the world were increasing to Chinese-made goods. So we turned much more heavily in the later years, the last 5, 6 years, to just focusing internally on the China market, which is buoyant and a lot more profitable for us than chasing things outside China. We see different factors influencing the growth of our business in the different geographies. One of them is, particularly in China, we see a lot of socio-economic changes that influence the sale of our product into different industrial zones. For instance, we see a lot more fans being sold into the baby food market, where they dry milk into a baby powder. Now the Chinese mother has to go out to work. She has to rely so much more on baby powder. And we also see at the other end of the baby diaper. The baby diaper is now being manufactured in a lot more volume in China than ever it was before, because again, the baby is at home with a nanny or whatever. And baby diaper manufacturing incorporates a lot of fans, as does the automotive sector. Since we opened up the Chinese factories and the Chinese market opened to us, what we found is that the Chinese applications wanted to run faster, hotter, in a more aggressive chemicals, more explosive environment than any that we'd seen before in the UK or in the USA. So what that made us do was invest more in R&D. And principally, we do most of our R&D here in the UK. Our chief engineer is based here in the UK, and also we get good tax benefits by carrying out R&D here in the UK. The benefit to our whole organisation, whether it's the USA, UK or China, is that China has increased our range of fans that we can offer immensely. Before China came along, we was playing in a small town league. Since China opened, and it opened us to a much bigger market and environment, we're now playing in that Premier League and have the fan range to meet the needs of that marketplace. When the trade disputes started taking place in the last few years, in particular between the USA and China, we saw huge benefits to our customers, or we could give huge benefits to our customers being based in the USA and being based in China, because so many machines are shipped from the USA into China, often with fans, and fans are big and bulky and expensive. So it made much more sense to get the fans made locally. So we were making fans locally for our USA customers in China and making fans in the USA for our Chinese customers who were shipping to the USA, so helping them to overcome the tariff problems. I think the big drivers for sales in the next 5, 10 years will vary depending on the location, the geographic location. Overall, across all locations, we will see more growth in the environmental controls and the environmental legislation, which means fans are being used to clean up the emissions of factories. So to reduce the VOC content of the outputs of the bad gases, to reduce the SOXs, the NOXs, bad gases from factories. So I think we'll see that across the board. So we'll see societal changes in China, like we've already seen with diapers and baby milk powder, but we're also seeing, just coming in, more changes in food additives, for example. So a lot more food additives are going into fast food for Chinese families than they ever were before, which is probably a bad thing for Chinese families, but a good thing for fan manufacturers and machine manufacturers. When I come back to Europe, I don't see a great demand in any particular industry apart from the environmental side. I'm flicking over to the USA. I see big opportunities for us, probably depending how energy thinking goes, maybe into the nuclear energy plants and the gas as they move away from the harder other fossil fuels that they have in place there. So we're using a lot more technology and digitization within the industry now. Although the fan is quite an old technology, what we're seeing is more Internet of Things devices coming onto the fans. So devices that will sit on the internet or using a SIM or using Bluetooth to connect up to the cloud systems and remotely tell us about the vibration, the temperature, and the noise environment of which the fan is in, all of which, when we analyze it or use AI to analyze it, can actually tell us that the fan has this fault or that fault, and we can give the customer service and support remotely to tell them what's actually happening before something has failed.